A little over a year ago, I decided to commit to my YouTube COVID experiment and started posting weekly content. I'm not really sure what I expected from it, but now looking back, I can't imagine not having started. It's not an exaggeration to say that YouTube has completely changed my filmmaking career, both in terms of opportunities and money. And in this video, I'm gonna break down why I think every filmmaker out there should have a YouTube channel of their own, and why even a small audience can have a huge impact. One of the main reasons I think it's working so well for me is that I've built up a system so that I can create weekly content while not letting it take over my life. And I'm gonna be getting into the breakthroughs that I've made in my workflow so that you can see how it's possible to run a profitable channel while still having time to develop your own projects and have a personal life. In fact, during one of the biggest periods in my channel's growth, when I went from just over 500 subs to over 5,000 in just a few weeks, I was actually living in a tent and shooting my first feature documentary, not sitting in front of a laptop at 3 a.m. looking at analytics. Finally, at the end, I'll go through a breakdown of what I earned in the last 8 months and how, and what sort of brand deals and free gear I've been able to get my hands on through the channel. So let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Luke Forsyth, and on this channel, I teach the skills I've learned over 10 years working as a documentary filmmaker and photographer. First off, let's start with why I wanted a YouTube channel in the first place when I've already made it as a cinematographer and director. Well, like with so many other things during that weird time, it was all because of COVID. When the world shut down, it wasn't a great time to be an international documentary shooter, and for quite a while, there was absolutely no work coming in. That showed me that I really wasn't in control of my creative output, and that I was actually reliant on other people's permission to work. If you're anything like me, that is not a good situation because I start to go a bit crazy if I'm not making stuff. I chose this job because I love it, and it's not like I secretly want to be doing something else, so when it all stopped, it didn't feel good at all. I also realized that I was spending a lot of time on YouTube as a viewer, much more than I was on normal TV, and so it seemed like a logical move. I could add to the conversation instead of just consuming content, and at the same time, give myself a creative project that no one was in control of but me. The other reason why I think YouTube is so important for all filmmakers is because these days it is so hard to stand out from all the noise and competition. A website used to be enough, but now I really believe that a strong YouTube presence is the single best way filmmakers can promote themselves and the work they do, and maybe more importantly, get their work out into the world where it might be noticed. I really don't think there's a better platform out there when it comes to building your filmmaking brand, and my only real regret is that I didn't start it sooner. It might look like YouTube is really crowded these days, and it is, but if you approach it the right way, it is absolutely still possible to make something that has a meaningful impact on your life, and with a much smaller audience than you're probably expecting. Don't listen to the people who tell you it's too late to start, because that's all based on a scarcity mindset that is rooted in fear. If you put in the work and stick with it, YouTube can still change your life. For me personally, I didn't really have much in the way of expectations, and to be honest, I really didn't think it would be all that successful. But the point for me was just to make stuff, and so I went for it anyways. I'd love to say that it was all smooth sailing from day one, but the start was really awkward, like really awkward. YouTube, what's going on? Welcome. Today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite depressing topic, failure. I made a few terrible videos and then stopped and deleted them, but I liked the process enough to want to keep going. But I also knew that I'd need to find the right system if I wanted to create regularly and not have it take over my life. I didn't want to become a full-time YouTuber. I wanted to keep my filmmaking career going and make these videos. So I needed to find a more efficient system. Spoiler alert, I did find a system, and that's exactly what we're getting into soon. So about a year ago, I started up again, and with this new system in place, I started a weekly publishing schedule. For a while, not much happened, and there was pretty much no growth for months. Then, in June of last year, one video did well out of nowhere, and everything started moving. Now the channel is at nearly 17,000 subscribers, and I've gotten over $25,000 in free high-end gear, and for the last 5 months or so, I've been paying my rent and then some with cash generated by the channel. On top of that, I've made a ton of professional connections that have led to paid assignments and a bunch of new collaborators. But most importantly, it got me creating. I made my first short film in years because of this channel and created a bunch of cool BTS footage from that shoot. Starting this channel changed my life, and that's not an exaggeration. And looking back, it was one of the best decisions I've made in a long time. Now you're probably sitting there watching this thinking, oh well, that's all well and good, but how? And I'm gonna get into that soon. But first I wanna talk a bit more about the main requirements I had when I started this channel. And that's that I needed to be able to run this channel part-time and not be a slave to it. I like my career and I wanna keep doing it, so YouTube needed to be manageable in under 10 hours a week and even less if possible. Thankfully, I did end up figuring out how to make that work, and these days I'd say I spend well under 10 hours a week on making weekly content. Actually, if I wasn't building courses and writing newsletters and all the other stuff I branched out into, I could probably keep this channel going in about 5 hours a week, which isn't bad at all, but you really do need to approach it the right way to make it work. And just to repeat, you do not need hundreds of thousands of followers, because I've literally been paying my rent and locking down multiple paid jobs through this channel with under 20,000 subs. So it's really much more achievable than you think. Before I get into the hard numbers though, let's talk about the keys to building out a YouTube system of your own. The first massive breakthrough I had was when I started spending more time on planning and scripting. My first few videos that I've since deleted were just me trying to talk in front of a camera on some subject, and they were pretty much a disaster. Unless you're Peter McKinnon, just riffing and being entertaining doesn't come naturally to most of us, at least not to me. So instead of spending 3 hours talking just to get 10 minutes of usable footage, I started spending 1 to 2 hours on planning instead. I'd write out a detailed outline and sometimes even a fully fleshed out script so that I knew exactly what I wanted to say. That was a game changer, because that 2 hours of planning meant that I could bang out a 12-minute video in about 20 minutes of recording time instead of 2 to 3 hours like it would take me when I tried to ad-lib it. It also meant that the videos were much more coherent and focused, and I think / hope you guys appreciate that. The next thing ties into the first, and that's when I realized that making one video at a time was a big mistake. Setting up my studio to shoot these videos takes almost an hour, and I don't have enough space to have it set up full time. So by setting it up and taking it down every week, I was losing a ton of time. Also, switching between scripting and editing and shooting constantly made it really hard for me to get into a rhythm. The answer is batching. So instead of doing one video at a time, I do 3 or maybe 4. So if I look at a typical month, I'll spend the first 4 days of week 1 on scripting. I'll sit in a coffee shop for an hour or so each day and create a solid script, and then do that every day until I have 4 scripts. This number can go up or down depending on whether or not I have travel plans and need more videos stockpiled, but this is the way I generally do it. Then only when I have the scripts ready, I'll set up the studio and record all 4 videos at once. And since I spent the time scripting, I can usually knock out 4 videos in under 2 hours, which was impossible when I just tried to talk to the camera without a plan. Then I tear down the gear and put it all away, and actually get to have a livable apartment again for the month. Then you can switch into editor mode and roll them out one at a time. Being able to get into an editing workflow is also much easier when you have batch content like this, at least for me. I can get through a well-structured video in about 4 to 5 hours of editing usually, and when you don't have to shoot and script at the same time as you're editing, that's not all that bad. When you're constantly bouncing back and forth between planning, shooting, and editing, it feels a lot more frantic and it's hard to find a rhythm. Getting into this system was huge in terms of keeping the time manageable and the consistency up. And since then, I haven't missed a week in over a year, and the whole time I've still been traveling and working. All right, so that's a very basic version of this system, and there's obviously much more to it to that, like how do I find new ideas week after week, and how do I run the business side of things and actually bring in sponsors, cash, and free gear. I spent the last year refining the system, and it's too much to explain in a single video, so I've actually decided to put everything I've learned about how filmmakers can leverage the power of YouTube the right way into a one-on-one Kickstarter program. This isn't a generic how to make YouTube videos course, it's an intensive one-on-one bootcamp specifically for filmmakers who want to create a sustainable channel with ambitions for long-term growth and profitability. After thinking about it for a really long time, 8 weeks is about the fastest I can teach all the parts of this system well. So this isn't for people looking for a quick overnight solution, unfortunately. And because there's so much personalized interaction involved because of the one-on-one calls and the custom exercises and video feedback, I'm only taking a really limited number of people at a time. Like, I think I'm actually only going to consider 5 filmmakers at most for the first intake, so when I say space is limited, I really do mean it. It's going to be split up into 4 modules covering everything from branding, planning, idea generation, production, gear, and the business aspects of running a channel. And each module will include a one-on-one, 1-hour call so we can make sure it's all working for you. By the time you're done, you'll have launched a channel, you'll have an idea creation system so you'll never run out of topics, and a roadmap for the future. This isn't a plan for me to make millions, because obviously that's not going to happen with just 5 students at a time, and it's going to be a huge time commitment on my end, but I feel so strongly that this YouTube system can be a game changer for the right motivated filmmakers that I'm going to do it anyways. I'll have to see how long I can keep it up, but this YouTube channel literally changed the course of my filmmaking career, and I'm positive it can do the same thing for you, so I wanted to give it a try. But because it's going to take so much time to create a personalized program for each filmmaker, I'm also going to require an application and an onboarding call first to make sure we're not wasting each other's time. This approach 100% works, as I'm living proof of, but only if you put in the work and do it properly. So if you've been thinking about starting a channel of your own and you're really serious about doing it the right way, check the link in the description and we'll set up an onboarding call. Even a small channel managed the right way can have a massive impact on your career and finances, so if you're ready to commit, I'm ready to help. Okay, so now let's look at the hard numbers and what I've actually gotten from this channel. The secret of earning money on YouTube is that it comes from a variety of different sources, and the more the better. AdSense, or the money coming in from YouTube each month, is probably the smallest of all these sources, and it can really vary depending on the month, so it's also the least dependable. I'd say I get about $300 to $400 a month from AdSense depending on the month, which isn't nothing, but it's clearly not enough to live on. The same thing goes for Amazon and other affiliate marketing links. Those are just the little links in the description that people click on to buy products, and every time they do, I get a little cut. I probably also make about $300 to $400 a month from Amazon, which isn't a ton, but when combined with the AdSense revenue, it's starting to add up. Next source of income for my channel is sponsorships, which are the 60-second or so ad reads in the middle of videos. I try not to do more than 1 or 2 of these a month, but these are great for bringing in income. I can typically charge about $500 to $700 per sponsor, plus whatever I generate from the affiliate links that go with it, which is probably another $200 or $400 a month. So let's say an average of about $850 a month from each sponsored video. If I do 1 a month and then factor in the AdSense and the Amazon links, we're getting up to almost $1,500 or so. Next are the consultation calls, which I only started offering after my channel hit about 10,000 subs. Because once you have an audience of that size, probably at least 1 to 2% of them are gonna wanna talk to you. In a normal month, I'll do maybe 2 to 4 of these calls, which is another $400 to $800. I really like giving these calls because I genuinely enjoy talking to people and teaching, but what you can charge will depend on your experience level. Add to that whatever we've made from the other sources, and we're over $2,000 a month, which is actually real money. And once you've got your system in place, your channel is just gonna keep growing. And over time, all of these numbers go up and up. I'm hoping that in about a year from now, that number can double at least, and then we're starting to get into a really interesting position where most of my base expenses are covered by the channel. Then I can start to be really selective about what jobs I take on. So obviously based on these numbers, I'm not getting rich at the moment, but also keep in mind that all of this growth came in the last 8 months, and that's around $2,300 a month I didn't have before. And that's all with a channel with under 20,000 subscribers and only publishing once a week. So just imagine what happens if you keep it up over more time or publish even more regularly. The sky is the limit, and that's what makes YouTube so interesting. On top of that are the paid jobs I've landed because of having this channel. Jobs that came in from people who found me on YouTube, or else jobs that required a social media component, and then the channel was my proof of capability. So far, there have been 3 of those, one for a development agency, one for a political organization, and another for a commercial brand. I can't say exactly what those jobs were because of legal reasons, but in total, they've been worth about $20,000. I won't count that as part of the monthly income exactly, but it's a huge bonus of the channel. It's amazing self-promotion and is better than any website you can have. Lastly is the gear, which isn't the same as cash, but it's earnings in the sense of not having to buy equipment. I have a policy of only agreeing to gear mentions if it's actually something I plan to use in my professional work, so I actually end up saying no to around 3/4 of the offers I get, but what I do say yes to has been really useful high-ticket stuff like tripods or large lights or expensive V-mount batteries, sliders, high-end backpacks. At full retail price, the value of the gear I brought in is well over $20,000, and because I only take gear I actually need to use, all of that stuff is stuff I didn't have to buy. So look, I'm not trying to pretend I'm getting rich from YouTube because obviously with a small channel, that's not how it works. But I am paying my rent and then some, and I haven't spent $1 on gear in months, and all of that is making a very real impact on my life and filmmaking career. My only regret with the whole thing is that I didn't start it sooner. So if you've been thinking about it at all, my advice is just to go for it. If you're ready to take it seriously from day one, you can apply for my Filmmaker's Kickstarter program using the link below, but even if that's not the right move for you at the moment, I really hope you'll just go for it on your own, because I truly believe that every filmmaker out there needs a channel of their own these days. Okay, that's it for this video. Hope you found it helpful and that it inspired you to finally launch your own channel. If you want to see more YouTube breakdowns like this, let me know and I'll get on it. But whatever you do, just don't let fear get in the way of you starting your own channel, because there is so much potential out there. See ya.